In today's video tutorial, we're making a really cute Christmas themed cake, which will feature a red pickup truck cake topper. Okay, so right now I'm in the process of cutting out my pickup truck cake topper. And so I've rolled out some fondant. This is pre-colored red fondant with Tylose kneaded into it, enough to where the consistency stiffened up a little bit and it felt more like gum paste. And you want to do that so that your topper will be nice and strong and it will dry quickly also. So I've rolled out the fondant to about 1/4 of an inch thickness, and you can see I've made a little template here of our pickup truck and also the Christmas tree that's going to be in the back of the truck. And we're just going to layer on all of our details once it's dry. But for right now, we just want a good foundation to start with. So let's go ahead and pull this away. I'm going to let this dry on a piece of parchment paper, a parchment lined cookie sheet. And another thing that you can go ahead and do is this at the top of the pickup truck bed is going to be a straight line, and this is going to be a straight line also. So I'm going to just make an impression. So I'm just going to let this firm up. You want to allow at least a couple days just to be on the safe side, especially since this started out as being fondant. It's going to take a little bit longer to dry. So you want to just let this dry on a parchment lined cookie sheet, and we will meet back once it's time to start adding the details. Okay, so here is my dried gum paste truck, and I have another one too that's my spare just in case something happens to this one. But you can see it's nice and firm now, and I am going to first attach my anchors to the back of the truck. So I'm just going to flip this over, and we'll just cut 2 strips, and we just want them to be wide enough that they can stretch all the way around the lollipop stick to secure it. I'm just going to really lightly dampen my finger with water and just rub the places where the lollipop sticks are going to be. So this one, I'm going to let the lollipop stick stretch a little bit further up to give extra support back here. And let me dampen this fondant also, just slightly. And then you do want to arrange your lollipop sticks so that they're going to be hidden behind the wheels of the truck, and that way you won't see them from the front. All right. Okay, so for the wheels, I am just layering on some fondant circles, and I've kneaded in some Tylose powder into all of my colors. But I'm going to start with the black, and I'm just using this piping tip, the large piping tip that I have. This is an 808, but I can measure the width of this for you. But use whatever circle you like, whatever size tire. Oops. And this is actually a little bit bigger than the tire shape in my template, but it doesn't matter because I'm just going to layer it on top of our cutout. Okay, so let me smooth this out a little bit. Then we'll go next to the white, and I'm going to use a smaller. This is still a large piping tip. This is a 4B, but it'd be the same as a 2D or 1M. We'll just cut out this white one. And using just a standard piping tip, you're going to use the bottom end of it to make one last cut, and this is in the white. Actually, we'll do one more cut after this. Then we'll do a gray circle that's going to fit in the white. And the only reason I did it that way is so it won't build out too much. Okay, so let me just grab my piping gel, and I'm going to start layering everything on. So we'll do this, and then our white circle, and then the gray, in the middle. And just kind of push everything together until it looks like it's supposed to. And then the last step I'm going to do, you could do this with a fat paintbrush handle also, but I have a ball tool here and I'm just going to make an impression right in the middle. And within that, we're going to put a little red ball. So you get the idea. So for now, I'm just going to put this to the side, but I can show you how this eventually will just lay on top of our template. Okay, so now I am going to start cutting out my fondant, and it's going to be layered on top of our truck. So this is the front fender and the back fender. So these will go around the tire, and we're going to make the cutout for the tire a little bit later, but for right now we just want our basic shape. So I'm just cutting out from our template. Okay, let's smooth that out. And I'm going to cut out our back fender and we'll meet right back. Okay, so now I'm just trying to figure out my placement, and none of this has been glued yet. I'm just laying my pieces on, and I just want to line up the bottom of the fender with the bottom of the truck. And I'm going to layer this on again, no glue yet, but I'm just wanted to make a mark on where I'm going to be cutting away some of the fender to make room for the tire. So I'm just lightly marking, and the fender is still soft. I just cut it out. So the next step is to use the same cutter that we used for the tire to cut away that little piece. And I don't want to apply too much pressure to my cutout because it's on these lollipop sticks. So I'm just going to do this right on the cookie sheet. And so I'm just going to look where I made my mark and cut away that section. Okay, so this is our front fender, and I'm just going to go ahead. I'll just put our piping gel where the tire is going to be and on the back of the fender. And I'm probably still going to need to slide things around a little bit. Okay, but you see it fits in perfectly. And I'm going to leave just a little bit of room for that front little piece. And this time I'll put the tire on first. Yeah. So just kind of push things around and work with it until everything fits together. Okay, so I just used my little front window template to cut out some white fondant with Tylose kneaded into it. And I just glued that to our truck, just like before, with some piping gel. And now I'm just cutting out a strip of our fondant that's going to go right underneath the window, and that just adds a little bit of dimension. And I'll just trim it. Next we need some green, and I have some green fondant. We tinted this with Americolor leaf green. It's actually gotten a lot brighter. Let's put in a little white. But this is going to be for our Christmas tree. So let me just lighten this just slightly. This has, can't remember if I said this has Tylose kneaded into it. And all that I'm going to do now is brush some piping gel onto this section of our cutout where the tree will go. And this is just going to be just one big tree. And there's more than one way to do a tree, but for me, I'm just going to pinch off little balls of fondant, and then I just pinch them on one side and leave the other side round. So it's just like a lot of little teardrop shapes. Actually, let me make some markings in it. You can add a little texture, however you want to do it. Okay. So we're just going to go one row at a time, just piece by piece. And it's just going to look like the tree is kind of spilling out of the back of the truck. Okay, so when I go in for the next row, I'm going to slightly overlap. This is the most time-consuming part, but it's not difficult. It just takes a while. Okay. All right, so I'm going to work my way all the way up our little cutout, and we'll meet back in just a few minutes. Okay, I just wanted to check back in with you. I've been adding the leaves, as you can see, and you can give them a pinch and sort of a curl up if you'd like to. But of course, the ones on this half of the tree are mainly pointing this way. The ones on that half of, I should say, the cutout are going that way, just so it looks more like a big Christmas tree by the end. Let's see, I think I'll need one more and then we're done. I guess I'll point this one on the top and the bottom. Okay, so I think this looks really cute so far. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I have shredded pieces of paper towel underneath my truck. And the reason why is because if I had this just flat against the cookie sheet, you can see that there's no support in the middle because the two lollipop sticks have raised the truck on each side. So if I push down any pressure, it would probably break my truck. So this just gives us a little bit of support, especially in the middle as we're working. Okay, so tree is finished. I did want to draw the lines for the door. So I'm just going to do a straight line. And see if I can make it straight. This is optional, but I do like, oh, I didn't do it straight. It's not straight. I'm gonna have to use vodka. Okay, I was drawing a line with black food coloring for my door, and I made it completely crooked. So what I'm doing is I have some Everclear and I just have dampened a napkin with it. You can use vodka too, and hopefully it will come right off. I just have to be gentle with it because I don't want to break my truck. I'm going to let this dry, and alcohol dries really quickly, so it shouldn't take long. But I'm going to let it dry before I go back in and make my line again. Okay. All right. I can go ahead and do the line for this side though. So we'll just make a little line right about here at a slight angle. Okay, so for the window, I just want a really pale blue. So I have my Americolor Sky Blue, and I have vodka in one of these little wells. And I just want it to be really pale, so I'm gonna dilute it a lot with vodka or Everclear. You could even mix it with white coloring gel if you want to. Let's see how dark that is. Yeah, it's darker than I want. Okay. Okay, so I'm just making just a really pale blue, and if it's too wet or if it's too dark, you can always blot it with a paper towel. Okay. Okay, so I think that looks right. And we need just a couple more accents. We have the door handle to put on. And so to do that, I'm going to take my gray and just roll it into a little tiny snake. We'll press that on with piping gel. And the front and back little bumpers also need some gray. So just pinch off however much you need for that size, just a little small piece, and just push it right on. I'm just going to make a little line and a little piece for the back. And the last step is my favorite part, and that is just adding the snow. So I'm just going to take some piping gel and I'm just going to spread just a very thin coating of piping gel in the places where I want snow to be. So a little bit on the hood and some on the tree, here and there. Okay. And what I'm using for snow are these just really tiny sprinkles, white sprinkles, but okay, so I'm gonna just let the extra sprinkles fall off, and you can go in with a dry brush and get in any hard to reach places. But I love the snow. I think it really gives it a lot more personality. Okay, so I think it looks really cute. Now we are going to start working on the sides of the cake. Okay, so now we are ready to make the trees that will go around the sides of our cake. And so today we are working with some candy coating. We're just going to use some, in this case we're using Candy Quick, but you can use whatever your preferred candy coating is. And you just need to melt it and tint it with green candy coloring. You want to use candy coloring. We used AmeriColor. If you use just regular coloring, it might cause your chocolate to seize up a little bit. So definitely try to use the candy coloring, or pre-colored candy melts is fine too. So the next step in this is to just grab a disposable piping bag. We're going to load it up and then snip the end away. Okay, so now it's time to make our trees, and I'm going to be piping our trees onto parchment paper. But underneath the parchment, I have just a really rough template of about the size that my trees will be. I might wind up making more trees than this, but this is just a basic guide. Our tallest trees are about 4 inches or so, because that's about the size of our tier. You might not even feel like you need a template, but this is just for the people who feel more comfortable working with one. So let me just tape this down so that I can see what I'm doing, and you can see too. And I've loaded my candy coating into a piping bag right here. And so rather than fitting it with a piping tip, I'm just going to snip the end off, and we'll just go ahead and get started. It's best to work as quickly as you can, because the chocolate will thicken as it cools. And now I'm just gonna sort of follow my template, and with each level the leaves go out just a little bit more, the width of them. And I'm applying a pretty good amount of pressure because I want these trees to be nice and strong. So if they're super thin, they're gonna be more fragile. We'll just go ahead and go right into the next ones. Okay. Okay, so just making some little trees and big trees. Okay, I'm just finishing up with a few little small trees. These are just off to the side. They're not going by a template. And doing this step now means that we won't have to worry with gluing them on later with piping gel. But if you forget, or if you'd rather have a little more control over where the snow falls, you could add these with piping gel, just like we did with our snow on our truck cake topper. Okay, so now I'm going to chill these in the freezer to firm them up for about 5 minutes, or until they're nice and firm, and then we can move on to decorating the cake. Okay, so right now I have a bag of buttercream, and I just snipped the end away. Whoops. So it's probably, the opening is about the size of what a tip 12 would be. But I'm just going to let the top of the cake be snowy, and this is where, of course, our pickup truck is going to go. Just want to get this on. And you can let the snow kind of mound up in some areas if you'd like to. But for right now, I just want to help it along with my spatula. The packing bag just especially gives you more control around the top edge of the cake. Okay. Do you like the way that looks? Okay, so now we are going to move to the side of the cake, and I'm just going to use this same buttercream as a snowy border, and you can let there be little hills that go up and down. By the way, this is an 8-inch cake. It stands about probably 4.5 inches tall. Okay, so I've made it all the way around. You can just build it out however you like. And any little peaks that you have in the frosting, you can tap those down with a small paintbrush later once your frosting is crusted. Okay, so let's just grab a tree. Just kind of figure out what you want the front of your cake to be. I guess this is it. Okay. And you can let your trees actually stand a little taller if you'd like them to, just on a little snowbank. So I just put just a tiny bit of buttercream on the back side for glue. Okay. So I like using the candy melts because I feel like it gives the trees some more dimension and the cake some more dimension. And I'm just gonna kind of work my way all the way around. Okay, so our cake is finished. I love how this came out. I think it's so cute. And as you can see, I just slid the cake topper right into the top of the cake, and it really finished things off nicely. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. This is not a difficult cake to create, and so I hope you'll give it a try for your Christmas parties this season. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.